and I am going to be posting it on the in the chat. So if you want, you can share it with people. If they want to join us over here on in the Zoom meeting and speak, they can, or they can watch us on YouTube. Whoops. Let me start with a screen share about how many people participated. This is only secondary. This is not elementary. I'm just sharing it so that you are aware how the survey did, or how many people registered and how they responded. So this result is something that I really was very excited to see, that we have most of the people are happy that they are able to reach their teachers or school administrators, which is a big relief. I know it's still not 100%, but it is better than 50%. Sorry about the background noise. My dog is just going crazy. I don't know why. And this graph is also very exciting to see that 65% of the people think that their child is receiving adequate homework. But as we are talking, somebody is filling out the form. So we have 18% of people who feel that it's too much homework. So we probably need to look at that too. And I mean, we, in the sense that the unified needs to look at that too. The next graph was, again, very exciting to see that asynchronous time is working okay or neutral for most of the people. There are a lot of people who disagree, and there are a lot of people who strongly disagree too. For me, these two numbers are similar, if not same. And agree is a good number too. We can go over the comments at later time. I think we have, I don't know how many trustees. Linda, do you want to check how many trustees we have? So we can start. And just so you all know, I'm going to mute everybody. And when you want to speak, you need to raise your hand. And you can start raising your hand now. When you raise your hand, I'll unmute you and then mute you back. Oops. Okay, so there are two versions of Zoom. There is one version where you have, you used to have raise hand in the participant window. The newer version has in the reaction. If you look at on your screen, there is a reaction. You click on it and there's a raise hand over there. And then there is a timer, as you saw on the screen a few seconds back. This one, we will start. We'll give 2 minutes time for everyone to speak, and then it will turn orange and then red as we are in 30-second and 10-second mark. I hope that much time is adequate for everyone. If not, and if we don't have any speakers, we can come back to you, but we'll try to keep it to maybe 2 comments per person. And please consider it that we are in a platform where we are discussing, we are sharing our comments. We are not asking questions. We are telling the trustees and the school district what are our concerns, how do we want the district to go move forward. Let's refrain from asking questions, direct questions. Let's refrain from pointing fingers at anybody, any person or any union or anybody for that matter, whether it is in the chat or whether it is on the in your comment. And what else? Am I forgetting something? Okay. If I remember something, if there's something is going wrong, I'll come back and pitch in. And I want to remind the trustees, they are here to listen. Please do not comment. We don't want any issues with any acts or any rules. With that, I apologize ahead of time that if I mess up your name, please forgive me. Our first speaker is going to be Louisa.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. So I'm really happy to see, and that's kind of how I felt about the survey, that the school has done a really good job, I think, with the homework and the access to platforms and teachers and everything. And as well, this is for a high school student that I'm speaking, and that as well as that people are 50-50 happy with the distance learning. So that seems fair, more like 60-40. About the reopening of the school, I am really concerned about how long it's taking. We're only focusing on little kids right now at elementary. And I really, really am a strong advocate of reopening the high school as soon as possible because of mental health, depression, loss of interest and motivation. As the months pile in, almost a year, the students are really losing their motivation and their interest. Isolation is taking a toll on the students. And I really think that certainly next year, it has to open, we have to reopen, but I really am pushing for maybe opening some part of this year. I know March 8th, they're opening for folks that have limited access to internet and so forth. I know ventilation is a problem. Maybe some classrooms are not suited if they don't have windows, but maybe since it will be a limited cohort of students, we can make do with the classrooms that can open windows and 2 doors. But some sort of rollout, some sort of plan that's a little bit more concrete for the high school is very important to me. And so I am really advocating. I'm going to share that I've gone through some very serious mental health issues in my household and with my daughter. And I really, really want to push for the ones that want to send our kids back. Once the teachers maybe are vaccinated and we can be the social distance and back, please give us that option to send our children back for like 2 days, 3 days a week. Please do that for us. We really need these, and we're really pleading with you to work as fast as possible to get this plan in place. Thank you.
Thank you, Louisa. Vinita asked me to take over for a few minutes. She has some stuff to do. So next person can be Greg. I'll unmute you.
Good evening. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we can hear you.
Yes. Good evening, trustees and the administrative staff. Thanks so much. My name is Greg Heibel. I'm the parent of a junior at American High School and an 8th grader at Thornton Junior High School. I've also been the co-president of the American High School Band Parents Organization for the past 3 years. So it's been my pleasure to be deeply involved in my kids' education, and I look forward to continuing for the next several years. That said, I'm disappointed, dismayed, and I'm deeply concerned at the suggestions made by district and teachers union communications recently that many secondary students may be required to change not only their class schedules, but even their teachers, and more troubling to me, to be forced out of their existing courses entirely. To shift students' schedules in this fashion during the final portion of the semester, shortly before their semester final exams, and in particular before their AP tests, is troubling to say the least. The district must ensure that the desire to return students to in-person learning and their classes, which I acknowledge is important, but it must not materially and negatively impact students' academic performance, particularly in the case of AP testing. Those AP tests are a single opportunity. They don't have there is no ability to make up if their education has been disrupted through schedule changes. If the district decides that it's in the best interest of its students to return to classes, it must do so in a way that preserves their existing courses and teachers for all students, whether those students are in person or virtual. If that's logistically or technologically impossible, then secondary students must remain in remote learning. To do otherwise is unfair to our students and their academic careers. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Greg. Helen?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm a parent of a 7th grader. I have 2 points to make. One is that I want the district to pay attention to the challenging situation for 7th graders in this distance learning. It's very challenging already for the 7th graders, even in person, because they are transitioned from elementary school with one teacher, one single classroom, to multiple teachers and different kind of rules and sitting in different classrooms and stuff like that. So it's very challenging for them already. And this distance learning has made a lot of, it's all impossible to establish new friendship. They feel disconnected with their teachers and their classmates because most of them don't know anybody. They're very lonely. And from what I have heard from all my friends, all my child's friends, parents, and almost all of them have demonstrated some sort of loss of interest and social isolation kind of things, and they just close off, and they are very sad because they're very lonely because of the situation. So I want to know if if the seventh grader or ninth graders, because of the transition, if we can, when they go back, they need to do more of a social, if they can do more of a, first of all, if you can prioritize those people to go back, but also to maybe have more interactive activities for them, because it's very, very difficult for them socially and emotionally right now. That's one thing. So I was wondering, I heard the last speaker's comments about this. So is it possible for to live stream the classes when we do go back, so they don't have to shuffle the teachers that way, or how does it work? I mean, is that possible to live streaming so you can have the distance learning students be doing the same thing as the people in class? So that's my two comments. So I just really want the district to pay attention to those mental health issues for those students, particular ones at 7th or and 9th graders when they are transitioning. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anu, I can take over from here. Thank you so much. Thank you. Dan Shah.
Hey, hi. Is it audible?
Yeah, you're breaking up slightly, but we can hear you.
Okay. So, hi. Good evening, all. So, I am a parent of a special kid who is studying in 7th grade and a kid in a kindergarten. So, I think I see whatever I see, I can just explain it. Whatever the services we are getting for special kids, right, like speech, behavioral, and those things, is not at all effective for the special kids. And if you are like a normal kids are facing the mental and other issues, you can imagine how the special kids are affected by this. And as and when we are delaying this, we are more and more affecting them. The second thing, like in the kindergarten and like in special courses, right, you are only dealing with a single teacher. So I don't see a reason why we should delay. We should like get them help as soon as possible. And like my kid just transitioning to the kindergarten, I see a lot more issues he's also facing with, like he's disconnected from the school teachers, friends. They don't know each friends and how you interact with each and everybody in the class. These things are missing. So I will request, like, if it is like in safest way, we can resume it, or like a hybrid mode. Most of the school district in a Bay Area is resuming. That might help kids as well as the parents and everybody. Yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan. Next, somebody named NRM.
Yes, here. Thank you, Nellie. I'm calling on behalf of my sister who has her child is at Thornton, and then the rest of our kids are in elementary. And I wanted to call in to express, you know, like the many other parents, what my children are going through right now in terms of the level of stress, social isolation, just the loneliness. They actually have appointment with their pediatrician next week to see if they're suffering from depression to mild depression. Also, my son is being seen to see if he's developing ADD, because I just cannot get him to sit in front of the computer anymore without him crying, saying that he's done. Just doesn't want to be in it done anymore. Excuse me. Just does not want to be in front of the computer anymore. Doesn't want to do these 60-page slides that the teacher just posts on Google, and, you know, expects the student to do it with little engagement. Excuse me. I think that the biggest issue I'm having right now is, listen, I'm glad that remote distance learning is working for 70% or whatever that number is of parents. That's great for you guys. What about the 40% of parents like myself that don't have an option? Remote learning distance learning is not working for my kids. What are my options? I have nothing. I've been waiting for a year for some kind of planned timeline, something that shows me, hey, look it, we are working for your students' best interest. We know that they're suffering, but this is what we're doing. These are the timelines. These are the dates that we're putting out there for us to get your kids back in front of the teachers. We know that what the statistics show. We know what the reports are saying. We know how this is affecting your student long-term, the losses, the gaps that are going to have to be filled in. This is what we're doing to address that. And I know that there's a website that shows the stuff that's getting done and the stuff that's in progress, but that's not a timeline. That's not a time frame. That's not something I can take back to my kid and say, hey, listen, in March and April, look forward to this, something. And I feel like the 40% that are, it's not working for us, the 40%, we're being forgotten, we're being left behind, and there's no plan for us. And the board, Mr. Kamak, I'm asking you to please don't forget the 40%.
Thank you very much, Nelly. And I totally understand your emotions and your feelings. Thank you. Soumya?
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Hi, I actually have a slightly different conversation to have here, which is really about inclusion, equity, and mental health. They're all important to every student, by every, I mean all the 35,000 students that go to the FUSD school district. And here are some of the things that I'm challenged with. I have a 7th grader and I have a 12th grader. So I'll tell you, the learning gap is huge for my 7th grader. It's nothing, and it's even greater for my 12th grader, but only because of all the AP classes, and they're not going to have the chance to bridge that learning when they go to college. What am I learning from this? My daughter took accelerated math pathway. It was highly stressful because 7 years ago, it was geometry was offered in 8th grade, and when they came to 9th grade, it was just, doing algebra. But guess what? We don't have that pathway in FUSD anymore when we took on Common Core. And what has that done? Imagine the stress these kids are going to go through with the learning gap when kids go into 9th grade not having enough foundation, or having to go to 10th grade from 9th grade to do accelerated pathways for pre-calculus, right? It's not work. Every other school district around us, when I say every other, I have statistics collected from every school district. They've opened pathways to geometry. They can take it through BYU online for credit. There is K-12 free public school for everybody. You can take it through them. There are paid and free options. Why are we in FUSD not looking to open that to relieve mental stress? I'm not sure why that's not being done. I urge the board and everyone to please take a look. It's about equity, it's about inclusion, it's about all of the above, and more important than all, it is mental stress. As it is, these kids have not met friends in almost a year, no social interactions, and really the interactions have been with adults. I know personally that my son is about as he has outbursts of anger and frustration because he doesn't have an outlet with friends. So I urge you to look at mental stress more broadly, open up courses so they can bridge the learning gap, and also please try to open schools, at least for the people willing to send their children. We can make a start somewhere. Otherwise, I spoke to my friends at PAMF and Kaiser, and the child therapists are overwhelmed with students from ages of ages 12 and over. We are going to have a huge mental health issue here. It's a common ground for everybody. Please, I urge you all to take a look at this seriously. Reopen schools, open curriculum, make it easy for our kids to be successful. It's just going to help our community in the long run. Thank you so much for all your time.
Thank you, Soumya. Thank you very much. Joel, I'm going to unmute you.
Hi there. Thanks for listening to the parents here. I think distance learning has been working great for us overall. I've got a junior higher and high schoolers. I do feel sorry for the parents of children who are under about fifth grade. I think there's a lot more support needed during the day. And I know this is about secondary primarily. I don't have an axe to grind really, just sharing my thoughts from the experiences of my family this year. So a few points. One is there's a lot of variability in how long the classes have gone. Some teachers will give instructions and kind of cut the students loose to work independently. And it kind of depends on the class and the day. Might be 5 or 10 minutes, or it might be the whole session. So that's different depending on that teacher. I think the teachers are generally doing a good job. All the adjustments have been required though. My kids' grades have actually improved this year, which I understand is counter to the overall trend. But I think that's a function of more time to reinforce, time together as a family, frankly, at home to reinforce getting the work done. I don't think that necessarily relates to the amount the kids are learning this year, though, because the curriculum might be, I think, probably slower than normal. It's not as efficient as I think in person. It's also going to vary among families in terms of time and job and things like that during the pandemic. Another point is I'm really glad my kids aren't juniors or seniors in high school. That's something that's become very sports, academics, clubs, social relationships. If we do go into a hybrid model or full-time back at some point, I think it's really important to think about recreating that sense of social belonging and accomplishment, frankly, to take those kids to the next step in college and career. A lot of bad things and a lot of good things happen in high school that prepare kids to be, well-rounded people, and they're not getting that full range being at home. And I think that's really important. Also, I'm really not concerned about whether the kids go back in April or May specifically, or even next year, but I do think sooner is economically better for a lot of people, particularly with children with younger grades who would otherwise have to pay for childcare and things like that. I think that's a real concern. I do agree with Greg earlier mentioned it's important to keep the same teachers in classes. So it might make sense for secondary to go back next year or at a break between terms, et cetera. Homework seems about right. Second to last thing, I did notice that some teachers are still assigning homework over the weekend, which I understand you're not supposed to do, but it's hard to be the one parent to point it out. There are still things to do as a family over the weekend, and we just kind of grin and bear it usually, but that's I don't think that's supposed to happen. And lastly, I do think in terms of silver lining, having done the hybrid work will help the students at some extent with their ability to use technology independently. That'll be good also for remote work as an adult. I think there's going to be remote work continuing. So that could be a small silver lining when we look back at this for all the bad points it was this past year plus. That's all I had, Vinita. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joel. Next, I'm going to unmute Julie.
Hi. I am speaking as a parent of a student, as well as I'm a math tutor. So I currently have at least 10 FUSD students from grades, I think 3 to 12. And I've tutored many years. So I have kind of seen what's been going on in the classrooms and then what's going on now. And I just wanted to share a little perspective with you. Now I'd like to, as far as teachers continuing for the rest of the year with remote, I'd really like to encourage more breakout sessions. The social issue is just huge with the kids. They're all suffering with the isolation and the depression and the lack of engagement, even just academic discourse in the classroom is very, very limited. So I'd like to, I don't know if there's a way to do that, but I'd like to put in a plug for more breakout rooms where the kids can interact with one another. The other thing that's super lacking is these kids are not getting outside. I ask the kids every time I tutor them, how many times did you get outside last week? And sometimes it's not at all. So I don't know if teachers can incorporate that, telling everybody to go outside for their class, just to, that's really helps with mental health. Two other things that have come up, the kids have been complaining about vision issues and physical problems with posture. So those are two other things I just wanted to throw in. And then thinking about returning to the classroom, I'd really like to encourage the board and the district to open at least one day a week for everybody, just to get students back talking to each other, the social aspect, kind of getting back into the school environment. If that happens, or even if it's 2 days a week, I think there should be a ban on testing during those days. I don't think they should go back and sit and take a test. I think that it should be a time when there's teachers focus on interaction. I think that's super important. I think that I've seen grades being inflated. Students are getting much higher grades. And I worry about them going back and all of a sudden the curriculum sort of getting more rigorous. Because I've seen a drop off, not that teachers aren't doing the best they can and not that they're not teaching, but I see a drop off in the rigor of the instruction. And so I'm worried about students going back and then having that all of a sudden increase, going back to what it used to be before distance learning. So for example, now they can use resources, when they take a test or they take a quiz. But when they do that in the classroom, they can't. So what are the teachers going to do to try to help to smooth that transition? And then lastly, I just wanted to say that I am recommending to at least one of my students, if not two, that they repeat their grade over again. And it's mostly elementary. And I can go into more about that, but my time's up. But I think that it's really serious what these students are losing. And I know that we're doing the best we can.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Padma?
Yeah.
Padma, you
Yes.
unmuted.
Yes. Thank you. I was just typing up what I wanted to say. So I have two children, one in 9th grade and another in 12th grade in Mission San Jose High. And I wanted to share with you some of the input they provided me on distance learning. My 9th grader will probably join this call in a little while to say a few of the things he wants to. In addition to that, he is currently in Spanish 3, and next year he is worried about taking Spanish 4, given that language courses have had a hard time during distance learning, and he's going to be behind and not able to catch up and be successful in Spanish 4. So I hope the district is considering some options that even kids, if they can do it over summer, to be able to get caught up, or provide them some material and guidance that they could learn on their own, so that when they come back, that they are able to take the next course in a series. And I know in some cases that may be hard for children to learn on their own, but generally have a good plan for how we are going to bridge the learning gap. My 12th grader has conveyed that actually distance learning is less stressful because there is more time between classes. She doesn't have to run from one class to the other in under 5 minutes and be ready and get going. And she's hoping that when we return to school, that they would be given more time between classes. That gives them time to get to their class and say hellos to their friends. And that really helps them in staying happy in school. She also said that AP courses are finding it very difficult to keep their normal pace. And they would have been in a lot of difficulty if the College Board had not reduced the content for the AP exam. So this is something where it is fortunate that this is not an issue for them. And as a 12th grader, she is really missing homecoming, prom, graduation, all the things that they really look forward to in this phase before they go to college. So I request the district to please keep the option open to offer them a graduation of any type, so that they feel happy about finishing this phase in their life and really celebrating it, whether it is a drive-through, whether it is something in a big field, whether it is in limited numbers at a time. Please host them some kind of a graduation to make them happy as they leave the school. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Padma. Tara, I'm unmuting you.
Great. Thank you for hosting this, Vanita, and the one a couple of weeks ago for the elementary school students as well. I think it's a really, really valuable service. So I have 3 children. My oldest is in 11th grade, then I have a 9th grader and I have a 3rd grader. And my 11th grader was at Kennedy last year. He's currently at California Connections Academy. My 9th grader is at COIL, the district's COIL program. My 3rd grader has been at Breyer, but I'm moving her. So my older 2, they're in the high school range, would like to go back to in-person, and they would like to go back to Kennedy, you know, if that option becomes available. But now it's getting, you know, to be springtime when I have to decide what to do with them next year and decide to re-enroll in COIL, decide to re-enroll in California Connections Academy. And, you know, without a plan, my only option at this point is to keep them where they are and potentially, you know, change plans at the very last moment if something changes and they're allowed to go back to some sort of in-person at Kennedy. And my youngest, I pulled her out of Breyer. Today was her last day there, and she'll be moving to a school where she'll be 4 days a week in person. So these are really difficult choices for parents, and, you know, trying to do what's best for your child is challenging, and not all parents are going to have the same options you know, aren't going to be able to make changes. They're going to sort of have to live with what is offered by the district. And I think it's really important for equity, for the parents that, you know, have 2 parents working full-time outside of the home because they're essential workers, that we get the kids back. And, you know, they need that social interaction. It's very crucial, especially for the elementary age kids. I think they're developing so much socially and emotionally. And I see this year has been very stunting for my youngest, and hard for my older kids as well, of course, because, you know, their social life really revolves so much around school. So I would really encourage the district to come up with a plan. We are, you know, on the precipice of being in the red tier. And once we've been in the red tier for 5 days, junior highs and high schools could be open. And, you know, with the lack of a plan, it feels very hopeless for my family and for my kids. I feel hopeless about when they're going to be able to go back, because there's no plan. And I think that families really deserve a solid plan with a timeline, with return to in-person instruction, tied to the different county levels, tied to different milestones. And that's really what I feel is missing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dara. Ranjana, I'm unmuting you. Go ahead.
Hi. Yeah, hello. I have a 7th grader and an 11th grader. So my question is, I have 2 questions actually. One is, whenever FUSD sends a survey about what parents would prefer as, for example, hybrid or distance learning, I'm never clear on what hybrid is supposed to be. I mean, there should be some little bit more clarification, because if hybrid means 1 day in school and 4 days just homework with no Zoom, I wouldn't want that. So I would prefer that whenever you send a survey, please have a little bit more clarification on that. And so that's easier for parents to pick an option. And secondly, is not of a question, more of as a parent, like other parents have said, even though, yes, I'll probably choose distance learning for now, but I do understand other parents who really want to send their kids back to school. So this whole percentage of 20% parents opting for sending back to school, or 40%, this percentage is useless in my opinion. It doesn't matter what the percentage is. If there are parents who really need their kids to be back in school, that should be taken into account, instead of just focusing on majority wanting distance learning. That's just not fair. That being said, I have 2 kids. I'll probably pick distance learning for now, but I do see my high schooler suffering a lot, probably because he's more social and he's not getting his, I mean, he's able to meet a few friends here and there, but just nothing at all compared to what his life would be if he's back in school, because their life mostly revolves around school, not meeting friends outside of school. So I would definitely like to see a more concrete plan regarding what the district is planning. And I know fall for the next year is far away, but I am really hoping for that you definitely have a good plan in mind, because these kids are going to be devastated if things are continuing as they're continuing right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Ranjana. Helen, I'm unmuting you. Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear
Hi,
me?
go ahead. Yes, we can.
Oh, yeah, thanks. Sorry, this is my second time. I just have two quick comments. I really appreciate some of those parents really articulate very well what's is going through, and also they're emotionally and socially. And I just have, I understand the fear and the concerns about safeties and all that stuff, but I do notice, I do want to say, I think most secondary students understand the importance of social distance and the masking and stuff. I think sometimes they may still need reminders, but I think actually I think most of them do understand the importance, and I think they would do the best they can to do that. So I think that's less of a concern actually for older kids. But I also understand that they're probably more easier to spread the disease. So anyway, so I'm just saying, like, I agree 100% for those that, or for even for people, kids like me, for the people like me, and then they really need their kids to go back for emotional or academic reasons and stuff like that. They do, like, I want them to be I mean, the district should give them that option. Another point is that I think a lot of times people think the essential workers, they want to reopen the school is to find childcare. That's actually not true. And I think for me, as an essential worker, and I think it's really even for older kids, and it's definitely not because we want the babysitter or something like that, because we see how our kids are suffering at home, and they do suffer more because of their parents are not home. Last point is that I want to know if there's any plans to fill up that learning gap, the learning loss, as soon as possible, because I heard several parents' voice, and the drastic reductions of their, the big learning loss that they are suffering right now. So I do worry when they do go back, are they going to be able to catch up? So I want the district to start thinking, first of all, do open if we, do it safely, but second, also to think about how we can fill up that gap and try to prepare our kids to their future. So their future, and both emotionally and academically, will not be permanent damaged. Let's put it that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Helen. Going forward, let's wait for people to speak at least once. And if you want to speak again, just let's wait for the people who are here for who have raised their hand before you or are speaking for the first time.
Oh,
Thank
okay.
you.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just giving I don't want anybody to leave this meeting upset. That's all.
I understand.
Thank you. Neelam, I am unmuting you. And Neelam, I know you are PTA president. Do not use your, please do not start with that statement.
Sure. Thank you, Vinita. I have two concerns. One is somebody already mentioned around the hybrid program. So there's a lot of speculation around the hybrid program, and I would really like to learn more what it would mean if I have to opt for hybrid. Would it mean that my kid will be in school one day and not 2 days? Or would it mean if I opt for distance learning, would it mean my kid will not get any time with the teacher? That's first and foremost. And my second concern is around so I know a lot of parents have valid concerns on going to school this year, but my bigger concern is, what about next year? We are still in planning phase for this year, and we are still figuring out what we are doing. I do not want to be in the same situation in August and attend multiple forums or see multiple dashboards and say, okay, we are still not ready to go in August. So I want us to plan right so that at least next year we are in a shape where we have a clear decision on what we are going to do. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Neelam. Veronica, I am going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Thanks, Vanita. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you. My name is Veronica Salinas Duskat, and I am the parent of a 7th grader at Centerville Junior High School. This is our first year from private school to Fremont Unified School District. And while our first year at the school district in distance learning has been less than ideal, it's working for us. And so that's our personal situation, but and I do feel for parents where this is not working at all. So I just want to say that. And then secondly, I just want to say that, in this time we've figured out how valuable our teachers are. And if we say we care about them, we have to demonstrate that we care about them. And I want people to remember that they have a right, they're employees and the school district is an employer, and teachers have a right to a safe return to school. And social distancing, mask requirements, supplies, cleaning are all important components of that. And they are people too, they're parents, they're caregivers. While they have access to vaccines, that's just a first step. It doesn't really protect the rest of their family or the vulnerable people in their families. And, returning to school is a real risk for them as well. And I also just want to acknowledge that I have a sister-in-law who's a teacher in the school district. My husband works for the school district. And I think you'd be surprised that in the school district, there are weekly reportings of COVID cases, and there's not a full-time staff at every school and every site. So there was a week in December where there were 3 reportings during that week, communications from the superintendent, that there were COVID cases. So I think, given HIPAA, privacy, not all of that data can be shared. And the school has a self-reporting system for employees and teachers. And that's what you're relying on. Even though people will have vaccines, not all adults will have vaccines until this summer. And I think it might be time to get comfortable with this year being kind of a wash, unfortunately. But I do hope the district could find a way to help families that are most in need and need more support right now, and find something to help in that respect. So thanks for the time, and I'll give back the time, Vanita.
Thank you, Veronica. Somebody by name of Erica Hebel, I'm unmuting you.
Hi, thank you so much. I have a student in 8th grade at Thornton, and I have an 11th grader at American. And, I've just been pretty grateful that school has actually been provided this year online, because it could be so much worse. So we're happy to have the continuity of learning. Although it's not necessarily perfect, we are grateful that it exists and that we have it in these trying times. And our kids have had a tough time, just like everybody else's kids. But my concern is literally just about logistics. So timeline-wise, it looks like a return to secondary wouldn't happen until about the 4th quarter. And because some teachers would be going back and some teachers wouldn't, and some students would be going back and some wouldn't, I was told that it would involve changing classes and teachers, and there'd be a pretty high likelihood of that. And unfortunately, teachers and classes are really not interchangeable, especially in the 11th grade, especially in the 4th quarter, especially since they've just tried so hard to stick with it all year. And it's right before finals, and it's right before, some people have big national exams, some don't, but it almost seems like it would actually be more disruptive to, dislodge people's classes after they've really tried hard to stick with their teacher all year. Because one person's Spanish class is not the same as another teacher's Spanish class. And you just can't walk into that other teacher's final. It just doesn't work that way, because everyone's built a relationship and understanding of what's expected over the year. That being said, I do wish there was a lot more social outlet, because there really isn't like, I mean, maybe it's silly, but, there were no like online big, dance gatherings or, like online like weekend events or, anything that would kind of make them feel connected to the school. Like, fortunately, at least one of my child's clubs has been able to continue going because it was a computer-based club. But, I think, people are really starved for that social interaction. So if there's some way to up that somehow, and maybe if, there's a school social club that wants to come back, like, and, be really super spaced out in the field just so they can see other humans. Like, I'm totally there. We haven't seen any other humans either. It's really hard. But I think, having to switch teachers and classes, and especially your junior year, it's just, I can't even imagine having even more worries about stress and school and any of that when, if they've hung in this far, like, everyone's tried really hard to make it. But anyway, that's my comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Erika. Elisa, I hope I did not butcher your name. I'm unmuting you.
Okay, thank you. No, you said it correctly. I just wanted to explain my family situation. I have 2 kids. One of them is in junior high, the other is in high school. My daughter, who is in high school, is struggling mightily. She was always a great student and a very easy kid, but this year, due to what I can only think as a consequence of the distance learning, her GPA has dropped by more than 3.5 points. Yeah, I just wanted to say the obvious that as soon as we can go back to in-person learning, I think this is going to probably avoid similar situations for many other kids. And I think my daughter's situation is not an isolated situation. My understanding is there are many other students that are suffering just as much. And I understand that it's not an easy decision to make when to go back to in-person learning. But something else I wanted to mention is that I hope the district will reconsider the rules that have been used in the past to decide when to kick out students from their high school and force them to go to a continuation high school. Maybe before doing that, you could rethink allowing kids to repeat a grade to be retained. This is where I come from Spain. This is something that is done regularly, and I know kids who have repeated a grade and they have gone on to do great things. So I think it's something that should be considered, and maybe before making decisions, maybe ask the affected students what they think, because I don't really know why, or if it's there is a good reason for that. But I know for my daughter, for example, I know when I mentioned she may have to go to a continuation high school next year, she was absolutely crushed. So if a student is already struggling mentally and you force them to do this kind of change, it may be really bad. So please consider this. And also, I don't know, I guess just try to consider alternatives rather than just following the usual rules that have been applied other years to minimize the negative consequences.
Thank you so much, Elisa. Deepak, I am going to unmute you. Oops, give me 1 second. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, this is Deepak, and essentially we are all hearing different voices this evening, and as we have heard in various meetings, and we keep discussing what's working, what's not working, what's the preference. Is it, we keep asking parents, are you interested in distance learning, hybrid learning? These are just questions. At the end of the day, the reality is the majority of the parents want distance learning, knowing it's not necessarily perfect, because they have maybe remote jobs or they have situations that can allow them to. And the reality is some of them are also of those folks, once schools open, might even consider still sending their children for concerns with the learning loss that we are seeing. But the bigger reality is those who need it really need it bad. And for us to be in a situation where when other schools have already having plans and dates to open and are actually opening right around our whole Bay Area, every day we keep seeing those reports. Our district doesn't even have an agreement in place to open. No date, no agreement, nothing. And yes, there is some progress being made, but I just feel really bad for the degree of uncertainty that our folks who are really hurting mentally and who are feeling learning loss, for essential workers in our community who are literally working night shifts at various pharmacies and stores and stuff, and are struggling right now, leaving their kids at home, many times learning remote, and the stress that they have to go through all of that. It's really unfortunate that we as a district cannot figure it out and open. And I don't, like I said, I don't want to be Vinita, you did some rules, but we clearly know where the problem is. And our community is suffering just because the agreements are not got through. And there is clearly feet dragging going on here. And we really need the schools to open and the agreements to be sealed and done and a date declared. Thank you. That's all I want to share.
Thank you, Deepak. I don't see any more hands raised. If anybody has any comments, you can raise your hand. And seeing no hands, okay, good. Okay, now Deepak has already spoken, so I'm going to lower his hand. Julie, I will unmute you.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment about when we first went into distance learning, the teachers were kind of panicked about, oh, how am I going to do this? A lot of them didn't understand the technology. There's all kinds of resources on the web that they hadn't been exposed to. So there was a period of time where teachers, got some professional development to try to learn to make this transition. I think it's important to think about that same thing going in reverse. This is something that that hasn't been done before. I think that the district needs to kind of look at research and look at best practices of how do you bring students back that have learning loss? What are potentially some of the best practices for transitioning from tech heavy resources to now coming back into the classroom with, textbooks and, not being online the whole time. And the rigor, I think from my perspective, tutoring all these kids, I think the rigor when the teacher is in the classroom is much stronger. So how are the teachers just can't go back and just jump right into that. The kids are they're going to collapse. So there needs to be some professional development. There needs to be some expertise brought in, and teachers need, I think they would be, I used to teach at Mission High School. I would welcome that as a teacher. I wouldn't know the answers to all these things, and I would want to do the best by my students. So I think it's something that the district needs to consider in helping the educators learn the best way to transition students back in.
Thank you, Julie. Arun, I'm unmuting you.
Hello, everyone. Again, thanks, Vinita, for holding this session, and thanks the superintendent, all the board members, and also Brandon from FADA who are attending to listen to the parents, right? So the first part is, I think, so someone has already a number of them already mentioned it, right? So yes, the survey came out for the parents, and 60% of the parents didn't want, right? And I can tell you, I'm one of those parents, right? Because my kids have the luxury and are able to work with distant learning and are happy with it. But we talk about equity, correct? And equity is helping the people who need, even if just 10% of the students who want to come, those are the 10% who really need the help, and we need to address that, right? And we as a community need to back them up and get them to work. That's number one. The second is, correct, right now we have been in negotiations, right? And so the thing is, if you look at for any project, right, this is like a project plan. For any project, you have a project plan and you have check-ins. So you basically put a timeline out so that you can start understanding where you're going, correct? So that is 101 of any project manager. You need a plan, right? And you have to have deadlines for which you can measure yourself, whether you're going on path or not. So what I would ask is, right, like all private organizations do, if FUSD and FADA can get together and come up with a timeline and publish that to everyone, okay, so that everyone knows what it's doing. Second is transparency. We need everyone to know what's happening. We are the taxpayers, correct? Let's not have any, so we trust that everyone has the right intent, right? If everyone has the right intent, what's there to hide? Let's put it out so that everyone knows, so that we as a community can come together to solve the problem. The next thing is, like the previous person said, correct? We are now, the world has changed. Once we get into whatever mode we are going to open, we might have a plan. But once we implement it, you're going to find a lot of problems for which we have to start taking steps. If the 10% of the people who want to add, you can understand what it is, so that next year in August, when we are going to be way better, correct? We know what steps we are going to take to make this better, right? So that's with respect to reopening, and I request you all to do that. The second thing I wanted to talk about is learning loss. A number of them have spoken about it. I can see the difference between my eldest and the youngest child, right? Especially, this has been a big change. So there is learning loss, correct? So what are the steps we are going to take to help the students to get there, right? Is something which needs to also be planned, right? That's why we need to identify, get into an agreement on reopening, do it, so that there's a lot of other things which we need to do. Then the third one is mental health. Again, the only thing I hear about mental health from many people who talk, right, they talk is about counselors. But again, that is after it has happened. We need to identify the sources, correct? And one of the sources right now where parents, students are all crying is about them having mental stress. So let's open and let's help them out. Okay, sorry, Vinita.
Sorry. Thank you, Arun. I would not have stopped you, but we have other raised hand. And
okay,
if you
great.
have opportunity, you can speak later on.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Benjamin, I'm going to unmute you.
Okay, hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Hi there. So yes, my name is Benjamin Rogas. I'm the father of an 11th grader at Irvington High School. And I really don't need to talk for very long. I think some of the points I would like to make have probably already been mentioned. I've heard a few of them already, and some earlier speakers who I haven't heard, I'm sure, covered the same points. But just to contribute to the discussion is just to point out that, yes, we're a family that very much feels like our daughter needs to be back into class at least some portion of the time. It is important, you know, from an academic perspective, of course, but we're concerned even more about the social development and the emotional health of teenagers in particular, who are, you know, going into the nearly a year now of being separated in a lot of ways through the main avenue they have at that age for social interactions and social growth and social development, along with the academic aspect that we oftentimes, you know, focus entirely on. So I just want to reiterate that's a primary concern for certainly a lot of us as parents, as well as the kids themselves. having spoken to a number of pediatricians and mental health specialists, that a lot of them have noticed a negative impact and a rise in different maladies and conditions to that age group as a result of having that social interaction cut off. So that's basically my main point. And just to reiterate something else I heard, that there's got to be kind of an element of project management applied to this. And I actually sympathize with the district and with teachers and administrators. This is an unfortunate and challenging circumstance that you've been put into, and you have a lot of competing demands and limited resources and all that. So I did want to express that appreciation as well. But we do have to look towards not having a reactive way of addressing this at this point after nearly a year. We have to kind of take control of the situation and go into, maybe like one speaker said, a more of a project management mode. Not everything is under your control or our control in terms of what the rules are and what what we're allowed to do, but we certainly can plan for a few different contingencies and then advocate for ourselves as a district and say, this is what we're going to do. And I'll leave it at that, let other speakers weigh in. But if you start to get a plan together, I'd be happy to contribute in whatever ways are needed. But we really got to get the kids back into school at some portion of the time. Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. Archana, I'm going to unmute you. Please go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Vinita.
Thank you.
Hi, hi everyone. So I just want to reiterate some of the points that other parents have made. Just want to be another voice heard. I'm parents of two kids, 11th grader and 7th grader. And just want to say that I do appreciate all the teachers that have been, working hard to make sure our kids are learning. However, I do want to point out that there are teachers who are still giving out homework on Friday for the weekend, and some are actually due on Friday night. I think that's something that needs to be called out, that should not really be the case, but it is happening. In terms of school reopening, I do agree with the other parents that if the kids are being brought back to school, that they continue with the same schedule and have the same teachers, so that the end of the year is not disrupted with confusion. And that is something I would really like the board to consider and to reconsider. Yeah, that's it. I can't think of anything else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Archana. Padma, I'm going to unmute you.
My name is Ayush. I'm a freshman at Mission, and online school has not made it as easy to handle the transition from middle school to high school. And also there's a good and bad side to distance learning. Like, for example, my math teacher or the math class has been a lot less stressful than it normally would have been, because obviously like homework's online, tests are online. It's a lot like simpler while you're still learning the same concepts. And I think it would be a lot more helpful if we could do this, like kind of use some of what we have now in in-person school. But there's also bad parts. For example, in my science class, the teacher is quite strict on the policies. And in the second semester, they've added things such like if you turn in an assignment, it's not formatted the right way, you get a 0. If it's not facing the right direction, it's a 0. If you haven't titled the PDF the right thing, it's a 0. And I know a lot of people that are starting off the semester with Fs, and it's not very helpful, and it really puts students down. And one kid also asked about their grade. They emailed the teacher, and their response was quite rude. It was not helpful at all. They said it can wait till class, and stuff like that really makes students afraid to email the teacher. So those things are things that that need a lot of improvement. I think also some of the things that we've done well over distance learning need to like carry over to in-person, because they reduce stress and they could really benefit students' mental health. Thank you.
Thank you, Ayush, and you bring in a lot of points that I had been advocating for. So thank you for your comments. Sai, I'm going to unmute you.
Thanks, Vinita. Good to be back here with this crowd.
I have a daughter in the 7th grade, so clearly have an interest in making sure that post-elementary children's mental health is not impacted due to ongoing distance learning. I have 2 points to raise here today, both of which I'm sure are not alien to anybody here. One, I would ask that teachers truly expand their empathy and exhibit empathy for children. I've heard numerous examples over the last few weeks where teachers have not really walked in the shoes of our children and have been quite punitive in terms of their grading or the responses or how they speak, not recognizing that internet access could be could drop, or kids might have formatting issues, etc. So it's kind of ironic that while companies are understanding and forgiving of their employees, teachers were supposed to be providing a safe, psychologically safe environment for our children. Some of them, again, these are a few rotten apples, clearly creating psychological harm. The second issue here is that the response methods, in many cases, are adding insult to injury. So what I would ask for, the community and the district is to seriously look into whistleblower protection type mechanisms that we have in corporate America, that we have in the government, to ensure that the most vulnerable voices are not silenced by those in positions of power that end up, frankly, abusing that power in ways that create and accentuate mental health. I do want to wrap up my comments by saying that it's also a trying time in our community where, a local child was swept away in the ocean a couple of weeks ago. And in this last week, another youngster has gone missing. My heart goes out to those families. And I ask everybody from the district, the FCPTA, FUTA, everybody to please, find empathy in your heart, find a moment of love, find a moment of connection and caring. I know we all want to bargain our way 6 days to Sunday, but let's spare a thought for the real human issues at stake here. Find a way to help each other, and just be here for each other. Let's just be human. That's my request. Thank you.
Thank you, Sai. Vidya, I'm going to unmute you.
And if anybody else wants to follow Vidya, please raise your hand after that. Thank you. Vidya, go ahead, please.
Hi, thanks, Vinita, for giving me a chance. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to reiterate, I think, a lot of points that I've heard that I agree with parents. I have a 11th grader and a 7th grader in the FUSD school system. My kids have, I think the distance learning, their experience in the last year has been less than ideal. They really miss their friends. They miss the social interaction. I also feel having too much interaction with just parents is not helpful for them or us, and they need more privacy from their parents, and they want more time with the kids their age rather than with just adults. But it's not all bad. There has been some good and bad. I know even with my kids, it's been different experience between the two of them. And they like that a lot of the classes are less stressful. They get actually more time to sleep, which is a big thing for a high schooler. So at this point, I know we are thinking about hybrid, coming back to school. If we open in hybrid, I really want to understand the logistics around it and what's going to happen for different use cases. What if someone's detected with COVID? What's the playbook at that point? Would they have the same teachers? How would the curriculum change? I mean, it's almost March at this time, and the juniors have exam beginning May, so that's almost like less than 2 months. So at this point, it feels like they're both not so great choices. You're trying to pick between them, but in the end, picking the one with the least amount of changes at this time makes sense, even if it means, maybe continuing distance learning. It's not ideal. But looking at our March 2020 experience, it took almost 2 months for everybody to figure out how to transition from in-person to distant. And even after that, when we started in September, it took over a month or two to get into a rhythm where the kids figured out, the teachers figured out, and we have an ecosystem that somehow works. Not the best year, but it at least works. And I feel at this point, if we try to change that and figure it out, there's just not enough time. And maybe we let this year complete as it is, and we focus the energy really on how do we come back in a fully in-person mode for the next school year. But we want a combination of hybrid or distant at that point. I would really like it to be fully in person at that point, and would like to really focus on that at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Vidya.
That would be a great positive story to tell our kids at this point.
Everything can be positive or negative depending on how you put it, right? I don't see any more raised hands. I know there were a couple. Okay, Deepak, I know you had an opportunity to speak. I would give it a few more seconds if anybody else wants to speak. Okay, Deepak, I'm sorry, I'm going to bypass you with Neetu. I'll let Neetu speak first, just because she has not spoken. So thank you. Neetu, I'm unmuting you. Please go ahead.
So I just joined in. What are the topics that we're discussing today?
We are talking about school reopening, mental health, distance learning issues, and anything and everything that is going on right now. I mean, not everything, but yeah, those are the main topics.
So I had one topic. It might be included in the agenda or not. I don't know, but I had a concern. Actually, there is something called academic block, right?
Okay, go ahead.
So there is something called academic block, which is the excellence award for the kids. So I think that has some attendance requirement, which we were not aware when we started the 9th grade, and we went to India for a trip. So the thing, we don't even know how much is the attendance requirement in that, and how much right now my daughter has the attendance. So it seems that she does not qualify for it, even though her GPA is really good. It's 4.0, but she doesn't qualify for it. Then what do we do about it? Is there a way we can talk to the principal? Because I feel like at this time of pandemic, kids require those kinds of award. If everything is good, the marks are good, just because of attendance, they should not be disqualified.
Yeah, so unfortunately, I don't have the answer for that, but probably, yeah, I mean, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say any such thing, but all I can say is maybe you want to reach out to your teachers and the administrators, school administrator, and see how those can be handled.
So the thing is that actually teachers are not responsible for it. So
okay, Neetu, can I request you to reach out to me in the email? So,
yeah,
so that
sure.
we can,
I can do that, because I was thinking if I can talk in the PTSA or something like that and ask him that.
So reach out to me, and then we can figure out what how we can help. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. Now we have. I don't have any new hands coming up, so I'm going to unmute Deepak. However, I just want you to remember.
Parents ka meeting.
Sorry, hang on. Neetu, I think you are.
This is the way you can talk to the principal.
Sorry about that. So whoever is handling unraising the hands, can you please also mute them when you are lowering their hand? So I just want you to remember that we are commenting. We will try not to ask questions. We can comment about things that we are seeing in the community, or what we would like the district to do. But instead of putting it in a question form, please put it in the comment form. First thing. Second thing, again, a gentle reminder to everyone: please refrain from pointing fingers or naming people. So just so you know, and not that I'm pointing it out towards anyone. I'm just saying it as a reminder. Thank you. Deepak, I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead.
Hello. I just want to build on something that I had said earlier about this not being a majority versus minority debate, and also to weave in some of the other comments folks have made. And I appreciate that this is a very civil debate. That's excellent. And what I want to talk about is the mindset and the need to shift mindsets. So there is no perfect plan. There is no green lights. When you leave your house to go somewhere, there are no all lights green. And then we keep hearing that there are teachers making demands, or teachers bargaining entity, I would say. They keep making demands that is only prolonging the students' mental health problems and those who are learning loss. Because personally, I'm not going to send my children to school. They're self-starters. I'm blessed with that. And so distance learning is working fine for them. And so I'm not here to bat for myself, but the administration has everybody's best interest. They know, they conduct surveys, they talk to a lot of people, and they should be allowed to determine what's the best way to open. And we need the teachers to demonstrate the same adaptability. Professional development was something that was pointed out as we need professional development. I would dare say, let's open and we'll figure it out, right? What's the worst that will happen? We will may take 2 steps forward, we'll go 1 step backward. So are you willing to do that? So that's the whole thing, that's the thought I have all the time. And in the, you should weigh whether you want to get perfect with the mental health issues that our children are facing. Every problem that is brought up and delays the reopening is impacting our community more and more adversely. And so I would encourage the teachers' bargaining element to to basically show more empathy and come with that mindset of adaptability and willing to move. Nothing is perfect. How we fought COVID was not perfect. We had antivirals, blood plasma, vaccines, multiple different approaches within the vaccines, and there is no 100% effective vaccine till date in the history of humankind. The vaccine that we have right now is 92% effective. So there is nothing perfect. Don't wait for perfect. Please start experimenting and iterating and opening with the health guidelines. Let the administration open things up as long as the health guidelines are followed. And I don't want my position to be mistaken. We respect teachers, of course. We think that teachers are passionate about the jobs? Of course they are. So at best, I'd like my statement to be seen as an appeal to their bargaining entity to look at things with empathy and adaptability that this changing times demands. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Deepak. Arun, I'm going to unmute you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
So the thing which I wanted to talk about was, I think so, Mr. Heibel had earlier pointed out about the worry, especially for high school, about having different teachers. If a teacher changes.
Arun, your voice is, Arun, your audio is not coming from.
A big problem, and it's a systemic problem.
Arun, I'm going to mute you. You are.
Yeah.
Your audio is not coming properly. So.
I'll raise my hand. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. It was not coming properly, so that's why I was about to mute you. But go ahead. We can hear you better now. Oh. Sorry. Hello.
Oh, hello. Can you hear me? Oh, say you on my. Thanks. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Yeah. So the thing I wanted to point out is there is an issue right now we have in high school.
Sorry, Arun, we lost you again.
The same
So in
Arun, I will have to mute you. I'm sorry, Arun.
there are two teachers taking a class. They don't have.
Is it me only, or do you guys hear the drag too? Okay, I'm sorry, Arun. Your voice was not coming properly. So I think everybody is hearing a lag on your side. So I'll give you an opportunity a little later. Let me move to Veronica, and I hope you find a better connection so we can unmute you and listen to you. Veronica, I'm unmuting you.
Oh, thank you, Benita. I just wanted to be sure to point parents to the school district's website, where there is a dashboard posted now on the readiness plan to reopen. And I believe folks can also find the agreement with the, teachers on the conditions for returns. So I know that it's a little investment of time to go online and find those reports and read through them, but I think some of the information about what's been negotiated obviously is public because the school district makes the information public. But I would also just, since I know the Mr. Kamek is here and some other staff or board members are here, I think it would be really helpful. I'll just make a suggestion that you posted a really nice primer on how school funding works, and I thought maybe it would be helpful if you posted a really good primer on how collective bargaining works at the district, so that people understand that there is plenty of transparency in that process. Teachers are employees, and collective bargaining is done in committees or with bargaining units because they are personnel issues. At my employer, they don't host a town hall and talk about, salaries and benefits and things like that. Those kind of discussions are usually held behind closed doors, and teachers and employees of the school district are in bargaining units and they're entitled to that sort of confidentiality, but all of that information becomes public and can be found on the school board's website, pay scales, benefit costs, and so forth. So, and even when in the most recent board meetings, you can find out what the budget considerations are for all of those line items. So I think the district's doing a really good job of putting all those things up online. So I just wanted to make sure that parents know that we have access to those kind of details.
Thank you so much. I have somebody named AHS Parent. I'm going to unmute them. Sai, I'm sorry. I know you have spoken earlier and you have your raised hand, but AHS Parent is they have raised their hand for the first time. So I'm going to unmute them. And thank you, Veronica, for your comment. AHS Parent, you are unmuted.
Yeah, hi. Thank you. Yeah. So I'm not sure if this topic has been brought up earlier, but I couldn't join earlier. It wasn't working. So we have been talking as parents, and yes, there is discussion on going back to school and not, but with the current situation with the online school going on, yes, it is a big concern with the mental health of students. But I would really would have loved to see some change in how the teachers are approaching. A lot of teachers are, and the way the teachers are handling the whole situation is kind of stressing out kids a lot, like setting up a time of 2 o'clock for submission, 5 o'clock for submission, and there is no resubmission, there is no chance of recovery. It's really putting a lot of pressure on kids. I see a lot of other schools like Cupertino schools, no, they're not considering the lower grades got in the finals, or they're easing up finals. But here in AHS, it's like it's so much pressure on kids, so much of homework, so much expectations even now, and a lot of teachers, especially for AP classes, they have put in recording and the kids have to look at the recording, learn by themselves, and then do the homework and submit at 5 o'clock. It's a lot of things are so unreasonable. It's adding to the mental health of kids a lot. And we have been talking about this. I'm not sure if other parents have already raised some of the points, but I just want to bring it up. I really hope the teachers, are a little bit considerate.
Thank you, HS parent. I think you bring in a very good point. If you have seen my signature line, it says, "Let's have a compassionate school year." That is not the signature line I use every year. It is especially for this year, because that is the least expected thing from all the everybody, whether it is parent, whether it is community member, whether it is anybody. So thank you very much.
Oh yeah, great, thank you. Yeah, that I agree with that. Compassionate. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would encourage everybody to have a compassionate school year. So thank you. Sai, I'm going to unmute you.
Great. Hey, thank you. Yeah, thanks. I'm back here. I think maybe just with two quick comments here, right? Vinita, respectfully, I think we should, as a community, be open to transparency, trust, and free communication, or obviously respectful and fact-based. So I am a little curious, dare say even concerned, that any implications or suggestions that parents should not be asking questions might tantamount to stifling free speech here, right? So I'll take this offline with you and the National PTA to see whether this is consistent with the governance and the ethics and the standard operating procedures for PTA bodies. If I were not mistaken, that this is in fact an FCPTA event. So let's please put that on record, right? Secondly, as far as the students' mental health here, folks, another quick example here that I want to share with you is we recognize that a lot of kids come from around the world and they have names that don't necessarily end that are not non-Caucasian names, right? And it's kind of sad to see principals and teachers at times read out those names in their struggle, which is understandable. But what's ironic is teachers who teach our kids how to read struggle with reading these names publicly. They butcher these last names, and in one case, a principal said, quote, "Oh boy, that's a tough one," unquote. My heart goes out for those children in 7th, 8th grades, etc., who are trying to find their identity, trying to find their confidence, only to be robbed of their own name, right? To be made to feel that they're different because their last name has more than 3 syllables in it. I think it's a problem that the district needs to look at, right, through the lens of empathy and equity, and make sure that all of our teachers and educators understand that this can have a lasting effect on children when they feel that their last name or their identity or expression somehow makes them different in a disadvantageous way relative to someone with another last name. So please consider that. I'm sure the board will look into this and do whatever it needs to do to help children feel included. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sai, for your comment. I don't see any raised hands. So, okay, Padma has her raised hand. I'm going to unmute her. If there are no comments after Padma's, then we'll end the meeting early, but otherwise you can continue to raise your hands. Officially, we end at 7 o'clock. Padma, I'm unmuting you.
Thank you. On the topic of mental health, it is not always one source. We parents contribute to mental health issues with the stress that we put on our students. There is a contribution from students, from their peers on how they are treated or how they are looked at based on appearance or how they perform in school. And there is an element that is caused by the teacher community as well. So each side is pointing fingers at the other side instead of acknowledging their own contributions to this problem. So given that this is in this event, I would like to talk more about the stress caused by the teacher community on students. And whenever students bring up issues, whether it's a student, whether it is a parent, the roadblock they face is called academic independence, that the teacher has the final authority on how they teach, whether they teach or not, how they grade, and the consequence of what the child may go through. So I request you, please, I see here people from FATA as well. I request you to please consider, although you may have academic independence, what is the impact of that on the student? If we are causing a negative impact to their mental health, then we cannot use academic independence as a reason why we can continue to do that. And students have had the same issues for over 5 or 10 years, which means that the issues have gone unresolved for such a long period of time. And the consequences, now students feel that they can't even raise this issue because it has never been solved. And the other thing is retaliation. A lot of families fear retaliation for bringing up issues, and this may be just a perception, but it has to be dealt with very directly. When an issue is brought up and somebody says, go talk to your teacher, the next sentence should be, do not fear retaliation. Third sentence should be, we have a policy against retaliation, and this is what the policy is. Without doing that, people do not feel like they can bring up any issues. Third thing, we have a district complaint process. Anybody who has gone through that process will tell you that it's extremely one-sided. Every step is a major hassle to have the meeting, to go through the strain. And after 2 steps or 3 steps, the student says, parents, let's back out of this. I can't do this anymore. This is too stressful. I will just have to live with the problem. I don't want either my peers or my teachers to be looking at me in the classroom as somebody who brought up an issue. So I request you to please think about the mental stress that is put by parents on the students. And me as a parent, I have a responsibility to educate myself and other parents like me on issues that parents cause to their students as well. And each party has to take responsibility for the stress that they are causing to their students and come up with steps to address it. We can't keep ignoring this, and adding more counselors will not take away the root cause of the problem. We have to address the root cause. Let's work as a community and make it a happy and enjoyable place for students to come to school. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Padma. Uma just messaged me that she is not able to raise her hand. Uma, I'm going to unmute you. I know Julie, Deepak, and Padma and Sai have their hand raised, but Uma has not spoken yet, and I'm going to unmute you. Uma, please go ahead.
Hi, I actually just joined this meeting. I'm not sure if my point is relevant, but what was really working for my student during the distance learning, if that's what this forum is about, is I wanted to bring about the point that the block schedule is really helping him. So if there's any way we can continue with block schedule when we go back to school, that would be, in my opinion, a huge stress reducer for kids. It gives them enough time to focus on one subject and not worry about all 6 subjects on a given day. So that's one recommendation I would really like to make.
Thank you, Uma. Uma, I will have, can you unmute yourself? Unmute yourself, in fact. Sai, I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah, so Vinita, thank you. I mean, I think there's a consistent theme here, folks. I mean, it's sad that this is a virtual conversation. Wish we could have this, you know, in a room face to face, because the issues here at stake, folks, are really human issues, right? And what I'm sensing and seeing here is that people are, you know, being shut out of the system. Our voices aren't being heard, and there is absolutely no way to have a reasonable conversation, right? What we're seeing is a lot of filibustering, a lot of, you know, illegal mumbo jumbo. You got people that, you know, might have gotten themselves a JD, that are, you know, have, you know, influence, power, what connections, what have you. And, you know, it's an uneven system. it's an uneven system. Ultimately, it's our taxpayer money that's funding all of this. It's our kids, it's our community, right? So, we the parents, we might be immigrant parents, but we aren't second-class citizens, right? And I see a theme here, an underlying theme, and as sad as it might sound, I think there's a reality that we need to broaden, right, our horizon and truly respect diversity and inclusion, right? It's until a few months ago, our board was not representative of the community that it in Fremont, and that's a fact, right? So yes, Black Lives Matter, right? And for that community and for the rest of the country, and our lives matter too, right? So I think we need to just be very careful that we don't continue to create a chasm, right, between ourselves for whatever reason. And let's have forums to have an authentic conversation, because the first step to solving a problem is to acknowledge that, right? And enough of filibustering, enough of legal mumbo jumbo, right? And let's help each other, and let's fix the problem at the root cause. If not, we're going to lose our next generation, and that'll be a sad price to pay. Thank you.
Sai. Thank you, Sai. Julie, I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for hosting the forum. I think it's really nice for you to allow us to make comments. I appreciate the board members who are attending and the leadership in the district. So I just wanted to thank you for that. And I also just wanted to say to parents, because of some of the recent comments, when my son was in 5th grade, that's, I don't know what it is, 9, 10, 11-year-old, 3 of the kids in his class became suicidal because it was a very toxic environment. And that was in a Fremont school. I think that you really need to touch base with your children right now and evaluate their mental health and keep the lines of communication open, no matter how young your children are. One of the 10-year-olds had 3 different plans for what he was going to do, and so these kids are never too young. It's a challenging time. Please listen to them and, protect your kids and give them an opportunity to share their voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. So seeing
no more hands, we can end the meeting.
It's 6:45. I know we have up until 7, but if you don't have anybody else who wants to make a comment, we can end the meeting soon. Okay, Mr. Kamek is here. Mr. Kamek, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Vanita. I just wanted to extend my gratitude for everybody attending. Normally, it is not where I'm bashful to offer thoughts, but I wanted to be very respectful that this was designed as a listening session, and I've certainly been listening. I've certainly been hearing what you're saying. I want to share that we are working hard to safely return our students and staff to school. I think this call has highlighted many of the complications associated with that. When we talk about trying to do that in a way that doesn't harm students in any way, shape, or form, and all of the different ramifications that come along with how we design that. So I do appreciate hearing from all the parents. I can tell you from my experience as the parent of an 8th grader and a 5th grader who are currently in distance learning, I have empathy with you, and we are all in this together. And that mental health piece is very important. It's very important for our staff members across the district. It's very important for your children, who I consider our children. Just recently, I came home from work, and I got home at, we had a board meeting that night. I got home at 1:30 in the morning, and my son was wide awake because he needed to talk, because it's tough right now. And so I think, as somebody mentioned earlier, a very important time to be connected with our children the best we can. And I just want to acknowledge and thank everybody for attending. Know that I've heard the feedback. And I also want to acknowledge that our board members who are present are listening as well. Due to the Brown Act, they're not allowed to communicate in this meeting, because they're only allowed to communicate with each other in a meeting when it's agendized properly. So I just wanted to share that and share my appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kamek. Arun, I have Brannon's hand up. Let me give her an opportunity. I know you have spoken earlier, and Brannon has not, so I'm going to give her an opportunity. Brannon, I'm unmuting you. Thank you. Oops. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brannon Dorsey. I'm the first vice president of the Fremont Unified District Teachers Association. I teach first grade at Parkmont, but I'm also a Fremont resident. I've been teaching 21 years in Fremont, and I'm a proud parent of a 9th grader at Kennedy High School. Go Titans. CJ's gonna laugh because I always say that every time. But I just wanted to thank you for being open and honest about your feelings tonight. If you know me, I actually have taught some of your children in here. Leslie Gupta was here. I had both of her kids in my kindergarten class when I taught kindergarten, but you were very honest and open. I have 4 pages of handwritten notes, and I take everything that you say seriously, and I will report that back. I have struggled. My child has struggled. And when I can't remember if it was Cy or it was Cy, because I'm looking in my notes. Find a way to be human every day with my first graders. We are human. We go through the same struggles that every person here is, the educators in Fremont do as parents, just like you. My child's grades plummeted. He's a year-round athlete ever since he was 5 years old. So I am right there with you. I got my vaccine about a week and a half ago. I'm speaking for myself. I can't wait to go back and teach kids in person. And I did fill that survey out that we just got today. And I know many other of my colleagues can't wait to go back and teach in person. So just know that there are people out here who are listening to you. We know that we are in this together and that we are working for solutions. So sorry to tear up. If you know me, you know I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and this is me being human. I do sometimes cry on Zoom with my kids, and I tell them, did you tell them Mrs. Dorsey cried again in language arts? And they say yes. And then we all laugh. And I accidentally said bye, I love you today to my first grade class because I had gotten off at lunch with my mom. So thanks again. And like I said, I will report back what you said, and we do take everything seriously. And just know I'm a Fremont parent too, and I am there with you.
Thank you very much, Brandon. Thank you very much. And we appreciate you as a teacher too. I have known you for some time, and I have appreciated every friendship moment we had. So thank you very much for being there for our students. Arun, I'm going to unmute you now.
Okay, let's see if this works. I'm still outside. Again, I just wanted to say thanks to Brannon. Brannon, we worked. You worked with us parents over the summer, and I think so. You could see how, at least I could see how genuine you were and how much you tried to come up to speed on distance learning.
Arun, Arun, I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh. I don't mean to laugh, but your Arun, your voice is really lagging.
I won't cover everything which has been covered before, like Padma, and I'll cover something which I wanted to say. But one thing I wanted to, is it still breaking?
No, you have, when you ask, is it still breaking? It comes like perfectly fine. But as soon as you start talking,
last time, better?
Yeah. So don't move wherever you are, just stay in that place.
Okay, I'll talk this last, the comment I wanted to make is, okay, so we need to, one thing which we need to do is, right now why high school parents are so worried about having different teachers teach them is because right now, if there are two teachers who are teaching the same subject, they don't have the same rubric, or they don't have the same way where they teach. So as a result, this leads to a lot of mental stress to everyone, because one teacher can be very hard and another teacher can be very easy, right? And this leads to a lot of mental stress. So one thing which the district should know is try to come up with a uniform rubric that from a particular department, this is the thing which we're going to cover, and this is what we're going to teach. So that way it will be uniform, and it is also across. There are going to be differences between every teacher, but they can put things in place to help uniformity, so that it is not just your luck by which you attend a particular class, right? So that is something which will really help reduce the mental stress of kids. And that was one thing which was not covered. I wanted to cover. Rest has been covered. Thanks a lot, everyone, for doing it. And I don't know if you heard. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Arun. With that, I think that was our last comment from the people attending. I need to thank everybody who attended. I'm really thankful to the district staff, Brandon Dorsey, FATA representatives, all the trustees. And I don't know if we had elementary and secondary directors here, but if they were here, thank you to them too. I think we have to remember that, as I said earlier, we need to have compassionate school year. And in addition to that, we need to remember we all are human. We all make errors. There are errors. I mean, there is nobody who is just perfect. We all make mistakes. We have to learn to move away from the mistakes and remember the good things that others are doing and we are doing. So again, thank you, teachers, for doing that, taking that extra step and accommodating our students. I really hope that everybody, all our teachers and all our parents and all our students and everybody else becomes a little bit more compassionate, move towards each other, and remembers that we are a community. We are here only for one reason, that is our students. If students were not here, none of us will be here. Parents will not be here, educators will not be here, schools will not be here. So it's all about students. Let's keep our students in focus and remember that we have to ride it together. This is a hard year. This has been a hard time. It is not only hard for us, it's difficult for everybody, every community member. So let's just stay together and try to find the solutions that work together for all the students. Thank you, everybody. Thank you very much for attending. Thank you, Mr. Kamak. You have always been a very, very supportive superintendent. I could not have asked for a better superintendent than you, especially in this year when we needed all the support we can have. This is something, it's a breath of fresh air to have you. So thank you very much for everyone who attended. And I look forward to seeing you sometime in future. I don't know whether it will be a forum similar to this or at the school district meeting, but thank you very much. Have a great night. Thank you. Bye.